Have you ever cried yourself to sleep and told yourself you weren't sad? Have you ever been surrounded by people and felt completely alone? Have you ever loved someone so much that you forgot who you were? If your answer is yes, I need you to pay attention to what I'm about to say. Because what you're feeling right now, that ache that lives in your chest, that heaviness that follows you everywhere, it's not weakness. It's not confusion. It's not something you need to understand better. It's something you need to feel. Let that sink in for a moment. There's a wound inside you that you keep running from. You've become an expert at running. You run by reading articles at 2 a.m. You run by analyzing every text message. You run by telling yourself that you just need to understand them better. And every time you run, you get a little more lost. Every time you hide behind knowledge, you lose a little more of yourself. But here's what you've been avoiding. You've been avoiding the one truth that could set you free. You're in pain, real pain, pain that has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. Now I know what you're thinking, but you don't understand my situation. You don't know what I'm going through. If you knew my story, you wouldn't say that. And you're right. I don't know your exact story, but I know this. I know what it feels like to love someone who can't reach back. I know what it feels like to give everything and receive silence. I know what it feels like to wonder if you're the problem. I know what it feels like to wake up every single morning and pretend you're okay when inside. You're breaking apart piece by piece. That's what this is really about. You're not here because you want a better relationship. You're here because you're exhausted. You're here because something inside you has been screaming for so long that you've learned to live with the noise. You've learned to call it something else. You've learned to dress it up in clinical language so it doesn't hurt as much. You tell yourself, I'm fine. You tell yourself, this is just how relationships are. You tell yourself, I just need to be more understanding. And you say these things because the alternative feels too big. The alternative is admitting that you've been neglecting yourself. The alternative is admitting that the person you love the most is also the person who's hurting you the most. But here's the truth you need to hear right now. You are not fine. You've been saying I'm fine for so long that you forgot what real feeling feels like. You've been so busy protecting yourself that you forgot to check on yourself. You've been so focused on their healing that you've completely abandoned yours. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. This is not about them. Not really. This is about you. This is about the part of you that learned to make yourself small. This is about the part of you that learned to accept crumbs and call them a meal. This is about the part of you that has been waiting, hoping, and praying for someone to see you. And no one has, because you've taught everyone around you that you don't need to be seen, that you can handle it, that you're strong enough to carry everything alone. But you're not, and that's okay, because strong doesn't mean silent. Strong doesn't mean pretending. Strong means having the courage to stop running. Strong means having the courage to look at yourself and say, this hurts, and it's okay that it hurts. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how you've been hiding from yourself. I'm going to show you the signs you've been ignoring. I'm going to show you why understanding your partner has become your biggest escape. And I'm going to help you find your way back to yourself. This isn't going to be comfortable. Some of what I'm about to say will feel like a knife. Because the truth always does at first. But I promise you this, if you stay with me until the end, you will walk away with something you haven't felt in a long time. Clarity, real clarity, not the kind that comes from reading another article or watching another video. The kind that comes from finally, actually seeing yourself. So if you've ever felt like you're losing yourself in a relationship, if you've ever felt like you're the only one trying, if you've ever woken up wondering if this is all there is, stay right here. Because this is for you. This has always been for you. You deserve to feel seen. You deserve to feel heard. And by the end of this video, you're going to remember what that feels like. Now that you've admitted you're in pain, let's talk about why you haven't healed. Here's something you've probably never considered. The very thing you thought was helping you is actually destroying you. Every book you've read, every podcast you've listened to, every video you've watched about attachment styles and emotional unavailability and anxious avoidant dynamics, you've been collecting all of this knowledge like armor, like protection. And I understand why. Because knowledge feels safe. Knowledge feels like progress. Knowledge makes you feel like you're doing something right. But today I need to ask you a hard question. Have you been healing or have you been hiding? What you're doing has a name. Psychologists call it intellectual bypassing. It's when your mind takes something emotional and turns it into something logical. It's when your pain becomes a research project. It's when your heartbreak turns into a case study. And the worst part, it feels like growth. It feels like you're getting smarter. It feels like you're finally understanding what's happening to you, but you're not. You're just avoiding. Let me paint a picture for you. Every time your partner pulls away, you don't feel the rejection. You analyze it. You think this is classic avoidance. They're deactivating. Their attachment system is activated. And immediately you feel better. Not because the pain went away, but because you put it in a box. You labeled it. You made it manageable. And in that moment, you lost the opportunity to actually feel what was happening inside you. This is what intellectual bypassing does. It turns every wound into a concept. Every hurt becomes a framework. Every moment of abandonment transforms into an opportunity to sound smart. And the more you do this, the deeper you bury what's really going on. You become so good at understanding them that you forget to ask yourself how you're feeling. You've probably done this without even realizing it. You're having a conversation with a friend. They ask how you're doing, and you say something like, "I've been reading about attachment theory, and I think my partner has a fearful avoidant attachment style." And your friend says, "That sounds really complex." And you nod and feel understood. But here's what actually happened. You just avoided saying, "I'm lonely." You just avoided saying, "I'm scared." You just avoided saying, "I feel like I'm not enough." Knowledge became your escape hatch. Understanding became your way of not feeling. And the cruelest irony of all, the more you understand them, the less you need to feel your own pain, because you have an explanation for everything. Their silence? That's just avoidance. Your loneliness? That's just an attachment response. Your desperation? That's just your anxious system activating. With every framework you learn, you give yourself another reason to stay stuck, another reason to accept less than you deserve, another reason to keep waiting for someone who may never show up. Here's what you need to understand about your brain. Your brain is incredibly intelligent. It will do anything to protect you from pain. When something hurts too much, your brain steps in and says, "Hey, let's think about this instead." And that feels like relief, but it's not relief. It's suppression. It's numbing. It's you running from the one person who could actually save you, yourself. Right now, you can explain your partner's behavior better than most therapists. You know all the signs, you know all the patterns, you can predict what they're going to do before they do it. And that's given you a false sense of control. You've convinced yourself that if you just understand them completely, everything will be okay. But understanding is not the same as healing. Understanding is just the first step. The real work is what comes after. And after requires feeling. After requires sitting in discomfort. After requires you to look at the parts of yourself you've been hiding. Think about it this way. You've spent months or maybe years studying them, reading about them, learning everything you can about how their mind works. But when was the last time you studied yourself? When was the last time you sat with your own pain instead of running from it? When was the last time you asked yourself what you actually need? If you can't remember, that's a sign. That's proof that intellectual bypassing has taken over your life. It's not that understanding your partner is bad. It's that using that understanding as a shield from your own pain is killing you slowly. The real question isn't what's wrong with them. The real question is what's been wrong with you. And I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying it because that's where the freedom is. That's where the healing starts. Understanding them gave you a story. Understanding yourself will give you a life. So let this be your moment of awakening. Let this be the moment you stop hiding behind psychology and start looking at the human being underneath, the one who's been hurting, the one who's been waiting, the one who deserves so much more than explanations. You're about to discover 7 signs that show you've been using understanding as your escape. And when you see them, you might feel uncomfortable. You might want to stop watching, but don't, because this is the moment everything starts to change. This is when you stop being a student of their wounds and start being a protector of your own. Now you know what intellectual bypassing is. Now you understand how it's been holding you back, but the question remains, why? Why does your own brain work against you like this? Why does the thing designed to protect you end up destroying you? The answer lies in how your brain is hardwired to keep you safe. Your brain doesn't care about your happiness. Not really. Your brain cares about your survival. And those two things are not the same. Every system inside you, every neural pathway, every automatic response, it's all designed for one purpose: to keep you alive. And when it comes to emotional pain, your brain has developed something remarkable: a loophole, a way to escape hurt without facing it directly. Think about what happens inside your head when your partner goes silent for days. The first thing that hits you is a wave of panic. Your heart races, your chest tightens, you feel abandoned and scared and desperate all at once. This is your nervous system sending out an alarm. Something is wrong. Danger. Threat. Your brain recognizes this pain and immediately starts working on an exit strategy. Here's where it gets clever. Instead of letting you sit in that panic, your brain offers you something. A thought, a distraction. It whispers, they're just avoidant. Suddenly you have a framework. You have an explanation. And the panic doesn't disappear, but it changes shape. It becomes manageable. It becomes something you can think about instead of feel. This is your brain's way of buying you time. It can't stop the pain from existing, but it can reframe it. And reframing feels like relief, but relief is not the same as healing. Relief is just pain on hold. Relief is your brain saying, not now, maybe later. And later never comes. Later becomes never. And the pain just keeps accumulating underneath all that understanding. This is why intellectual bypassing feels so good in the moment. It genuinely feels like you've solved something, like you've grown, like you've figured it out. But you're not solving anything. You're postponing everything. You're putting your pain in a box and labeling it complex so you don't have to open it. And you keep adding labels to the box every single day. Every article you read, every video you watch, every framework you learn, you're just adding more packing material around something that's still raw inside. But here's what you need to understand about your brain's protection mechanism. It was designed for short-term survival. It was designed for moments of immediate danger. A tiger is chasing you. Your brain activates your fight or flight response. The tiger is gone, your brain returns to normal. This system was never designed to handle chronic emotional pain. It was never built for years of rejection and confusion and feeling unwanted. And when you use this system over and over again, it starts to break down. Right now, your brain is exhausted. You've been running from yourself for so long that your protection mechanism is no longer protecting you. It's just keeping you numb. It's just keeping you stuck. And the problem with numbness is that it doesn't know the difference between danger and love. It doesn't know the difference between pain that needs to be felt and pain that needs to be protected. It just numbs everything, including the parts of you that still want to feel joy, including the parts of you that still hope for something better. You've become so good at intellectualizing that you've lost the ability to feel. And that might sound like a good thing. Feeling less pain sounds appealing, doesn't it? But feeling less pain also means feeling less love, feeling less connection, feeling less alive. You've been trading your emotions for your safety, and you've been doing it for so long that you forgot what it felt like to be fully alive. The truth is, your brain will always try to protect you. It will always offer you an escape. The question is whether you take it. The question is whether you keep choosing the box over the feeling. The question is whether you keep letting your mind save you while your heart slowly dies. Every time you choose understanding over feeling, you tell your brain something. You tell it that this strategy works. You tell it that you'll keep surviving this way. And your brain listens. Your brain keeps offering you more escape routes, more frameworks, more ways to avoid the wound that's still bleeding inside you. But what if you stopped? What if you looked at your brain's protection mechanism and said, I appreciate you trying to keep me safe, but I need to feel this now. I need to sit in this. I need to let this hurt. That moment right there, that refusal to run, that's where the healing starts. That's where your brain learns a new way to protect you. Not by numbing the pain, but by giving you the strength to move through it. Your brain is not your enemy. It's just doing what it was designed to do. But you are not powerless against it. You have something your brain doesn't understand. You have choice. You have awareness. You have the ability to look at your own patterns and decide to change them. And that decision right now is the first step toward getting yourself back. Let's get specific now. Let's talk about the first sign that shows you're using understanding as your shield. And this one might hit you harder than anything else you've heard so far. You've become a translator. This is something so subtle that most people never even notice it's happening. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. It happens every single day in your life. in conversations with friends, in talks with your therapist, in moments alone when you're trying to make sense of everything. You translate your partner's behavior into something gentle. You take their coldness and turn it into sensitivity. You take their absence and call it independence. You take their rejection and label it self-protection. And you do this so automatically that you don't even realize you're doing it. Think about the last time someone asked you how your relationship was going. What did you say? Did you say, "I'm lonely"? Or did you say, "We're working through some attachment challenges"? Did you say, "They make me feel invisible"? Or did you say, "They have a deactivating strategy"? When you talk about what you're going through, listen to your own words. Listen to how often you defend them, how often you explain them, how often you make their pain the center of the conversation. This is what being a translator looks like. Every time you explain your partner to someone else, you're doing two things. You're rationalizing their behavior and you're avoiding your own pain. Because the truth is, you know what's happening to you isn't okay. Deep down, you know that being forgotten isn't independence. That being dismissed isn't sensitivity. That being treated like an option isn't love. But admitting that would mean feeling it. And feeling it would mean facing it. And facing it would mean doing something about it. So instead, you translate. You tell your friend, they just need a lot of space. You tell yourself, they're working through something. You tell your therapist, they're afraid of intimacy. And everyone nods and says, that sounds complicated and reasonable. And you feel understood. But here's what you're really doing. You're taking the most painful experience of your life and wrapping it in language that makes it feel acceptable. You're making cruelty sound like a diagnosis. You're making abandonment sound like a journey. And the most heartbreaking part of this pattern, you've become so focused on translating their pain that you've completely forgotten to translate your own. When was the last time you explained how you feel? When was the last time you took your own hurt and gave it words? When was the last time someone asked how you were doing and you actually told them the truth? No one translates you. No one makes sense of your pain. No one takes your loneliness and turns it into something the world can understand, because you've stopped asking for that. You've stopped expecting it. You've learned to be the one who understands everyone else while no one understands you. This is the quiet tragedy of intellectual bypassing. You become so good at holding space for their wounds that you forget to hold space for your own. You become so fluent in their language that you've forgotten how to speak your own. You've built an entire vocabulary for what they're going through while your own experience sits unexpressed and ignored. And the reason this keeps happening is because translating them feels safer. When you explain their behavior, you feel powerful. You feel knowledgeable. You feel like you have control over the situation. But when you try to express your own pain, you feel vulnerable. You feel weak. You feel like you're drowning and no one can help. So you stay in the translation, you stay in the explanation, you stay in the safety of understanding them. But control is not the same as connection. Knowledge is not the same as intimacy. Understanding their pain is not the same as being seen in your own. Right now, I want you to notice something. Notice how much of your mental energy goes into making sense of them. Notice how little goes into making sense of yourself. Notice how often you have an answer for their behavior but no words for your own suffering. This imbalance is the first warning sign. This is proof that you've been using your mind to escape your heart. You've been so busy being their translator that you've forgotten to be your own voice. And that ends today, because the next sign is even harder to face. It's about the language you've been using, the words you've replaced your real pain with, and once you see it, you'll never go back to pretending.